Welcome back. You're still watching Network Africa on Channels Television. Now, just before we bring you the latest from Burkina Faso, here's the latest concerning what's happening right here in Nigeria. The Code of Conduct Tribunal sitting on the trial of Senate President Dr. Bukola Saraki over alleged false declaration of assets has adjourned sitting until 10 a.m. tomorrow. The counsel to the Senate President, Daudu Joseph, has said that the Code of Conduct Tribunal, CCT, is not properly constituted, arguing that it must be made of the chairman and 2 members. Counsel to the CCT, Mr. Rotimi Jacobs, had questioned the absence of Dr. Saraki. However, Mr. Daudu noted that the tribunal is at present made up of the chairman and a member.
On Friday, I intervened at a point to say that I would produce the accused on Monday, yes.
That's today.
I got a bit confused.
Okay.
You did not rule on it. You said it was noted.
That noted presupposes that I accepted what you said.
Yeah, I didn't understand it as such. I expected, in the light of judicial practice, that I will get a positive response. And secondly, sir, I would explain. Rotimi Jacob, who I should have objected to his appearance this morning, but I am not, because you always have the jurisdiction to determine whether you have jurisdiction.
Now to Burkina Faso. Regional mediators seeking to peacefully roll back a military coup in the country say they negotiated a draft deal on Sunday to end the crisis, though they failed to secure the immediate restoration of civilian rule. The announcement by Senegal's President Macky Sall at a news conference came after a day fraught with tensions that began with an attack by pro-coup demonstrators and elite Presidential Guard soldiers on the hotel hosting the talks.
3 days ago, an Army Lieutenant Colonel announced on Burkina Faso state television that the borders to the country had been reopened, approximately 24 hours after a military junta seized power in a coup that overthrew a democratic transition. On the same day, they freed interim President Michel Kafando and 2 of his ministers who were detained the previous day. It's a new week, and things are far from normal. Regional mediators failed to secure an immediate restoration of civilian rule, even though they were seeking to peacefully roll back a military coup in Burkina Faso. It remains to be seen whether the unsigned agreement will be accepted by either the coup leaders, who took the interim president, prime minister, and several ministers hostage on Wednesday, September 16th, or their opponents in a transitional government. Under the proposal announced by Senegal's President Macky Sall, who is the current chairman of the West African bloc ECOWAS, the date of the polls could be pushed back to as late as November 22nd. In exchange for returning power to the civilian transitional authority, former Compaoré right-hand man General Gilbert Diendé and his Presidential Guard will receive an amnesty for acts committed during the coup. President Michel Kafando will be restored as head of the transitional government, though the body's military members will be excluded, a move likely aimed at eliminating Prime Minister Isaac Zida, seen as Diendé's chief opponent. The deal also calls for the reinstatement of candidates with close links to Compaoré, who were excluded from running in the polls under a law passed by the transitional authorities. Their exclusion from the election, along with concerns that the transitional government was preparing to disband the Presidential Guard, were among justifications given by Diendé for staging the coup.
For more on what's happening in Burkina Faso, we go live to London, where African news analyst Mr. Warwick Oyama is standing by. Mr. Oyama, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pity it can't be on Skype.
Well, I'm sure you heard about the news that Skype is having basic, general issues today. So we wish we could have seen you, but it's happening all over the world, and we'll just cope with this for now. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, what are your thoughts on the events which are unfolding in Burkina Faso at the moment?
Well, I think it's a tragedy for Burkina Faso. Look at the sequence of events. In November last year, they got rid of Blaise Compaoré by a popular uprising, forced him to stand down and go into exile for 27 years, and he was even tinkering with the constitution in an attempt to extend his otherwise fruitless rule. Now, the transitional government, which was arranged, has been seeking a system that will enable a civilian government to be agreed by election. But it it set certain conditions, and those conditions included the fact that all the discredited ministers who had worked with Compaoré were to be excluded from the process. Then last week, less than 4 weeks before the date of election, the head of the presidential guard, a man called General Diendere, staged a coup and took the government into captivity, and is now setting conditions that all the old discredited politicians must be allowed to run in the election. Now, this is my view of the tragedy, that the military can lay down conditions for the political governance of the country. I think that is totally and utterly inappropriate, and that is true of the African Union as well.
Now, we spoke to a political analyst last week, and what he said was that it is just proof that Burkina Faso is not practicing true democracy with the events that are unfolding today, which obviously backs what you're saying.
Well, basically, resemblance to democracy, basically what has happened is that the attempt at instituting a democratic process has been taken over by force.
Yes.
By a semi-literate general who decided that he is going to be the one to determine how the country will be ruled. That for me, that's nothing to do with democracy. That is simply a coup.
Now, Mr. Onyema, I'd like to look at the reason that has been stated for this coup. We understand, according to a statement that I have here, it says the soldiers staged the coup ahead of elections planned for October 11th, angry at the transitional regime's ban on any candidate who supported Compaoré in his bid to extend his 27-year rule before he was ousted by a popular uprising at the end of 2014. My question is that, is this reason good enough for what is
less than 1 minute?
Is this a good enough reason for what has happened? And we appear to have lost Mr. Onyema. Unfortunately, we'll do our best to reconnect with him. Still to come on Network Africa. It's victory for the Black Queens who won the just concluded 2015 African Games after a brilliant victory against Cameroon thanks to a unique goal.